The next 3.5 hours before my surgery would consist of a lot of waiting and a lot of stuff being stabbed into me. It felt really weird having a tube attached to my wrist secured with tape. And let's just say that peeing while standing on one leg was definitely a very novel experience for me. What is up, people of the internet? My name is Avery, and 5 months ago, I underwent reconstruction surgery for my fully ruptured Achilles tendon. I think I have a photo here. Just for some context, this was the image from the MRI scan that I took a few weeks before my surgery. And do you see this little white space, like right here? That basically means that there's nothing there, meaning that there was like a 2.5 centimeter gap in that area where my Achilles tendon should be. And all of this was caused from me doing a jump shot in badminton, landing wrong, and feeling a ton of pain in my left foot. So in this little unorthodox storytime video of mine, I will walk you through what my surgery day was like and what I experienced while I was in the hospital. And full disclaimer, this video is not meant to be medical advice by any means. This video is basically just gonna be me yapping for like 20 minutes about my surgery experience, and your experience may vary depending on the hospital and the municipality. Additionally, some of the details of the story may be slightly graphic to some people, so viewer discretion is advised. Without further ado, let's get into it. So just as a preamble, the surgery that was performed on me was a prone left Achilles tendon reconstruction surgery using ipsilateral hamstring autograft. In English, that pretty much means they were gonna take a small hamstring tendon from the back of my left leg and then use it to reconstruct my ruptured Achilles tendon. At the end of this video, I'll show you where they made the incisions during my surgery, which also includes a very interesting location where they removed the hamstring tendon from. And just a little hint, they didn't remove it from the back of my leg. This story actually starts the day before my surgery when I received a text from the operating room of the hospital that I would be getting surgery from. It basically just briefed me on where and when to check in, what time my surgery would be at, and that I was not to have any food or drink after midnight. Fast forward to the next morning on surgery day, my check-in time at the surgical daycare was at around 10:30 a.m. So my mom and I left for the hospital at around 9:30, and we arrived at the hospital at 10 o'clock. We found the room, and then with some time to spare, we explored the rooftop garden and the hospital cafeteria. Funnily enough, in the last 2 months prior to my surgery, I had more hospital visits than the rest of my life combined. So it was definitely a novel experience for me to be inside a hospital again. The next 3.5 hours before my surgery would consist of a lot of waiting and a lot of stuff being stabbed into me. At around 10:30, I checked into the surgical daycare where I changed into a hospital gown for the second time ever. The first time I ever wore a hospital gown was actually a few weeks prior when I took the MRI scan where they saw this, and that's a whole other story for a separate video. Once I put on my hospital gown, I had to answer a few questions about my medical history with the nurse before getting onto a gurney and being wheeled off into a waiting area in another area for the hospital. And little did I know that I would be here for a very long time. During the next 3 hours that I was waiting there, a few things happened. Firstly, there was some nurses and an anesthesiologist that came by to talk to me about what the procedure would be like and some of the side effects. During the procedure, basically what would happen is that a breathing tube would be shoved down my airway to help me breathe while I was unconscious during the surgery. One thing I noticed about the nurses and how they talk to patients is that they always made sure to ask for your birthday to confirm who you were, and then they always made sure to vet themselves to verify that a legit person was working with you, which I found slightly amusing. Secondly, a nurse put an intravenous line, or IV, into my left wrist, which is pretty much a way to deliver fluids and medicine straight into your veins. It felt really weird having a tube attached to my wrist secured with tape. And the thought of it still gives me shudders to this day thinking about it. The last thing that the nurses did during this time was some nerve blocking from my left thigh down to my foot. They basically injected some medicine into some specific areas along the back of my left leg that helped to block the nerve signals to prevent pain during and after the surgery. In other words, they numbed my left leg. It was a really weird sensation, and as if my left leg was pretty much detached from my body. It was an even weirder sensation to slowly lose feeling of a part of your body, but not feel like the pins and needles effect that we would normally feel, let's say, if our foot fell asleep from inactivity. I had to wait a little bit longer for the nerve blocking to fully take its effect, but at around 2 p.m., I said goodbye to my mom, who was waiting by my side the whole time, and they began wheeling me into the operating room. It really did hit different being wheeled through the hallways of a hospital on a gurney. And when I saw the wide metal doors leading into the operating room, I knew that a lot was gonna change after I left this room. When I got into the OR, there were about a dozen or so staff in there, which felt a little weird having so many people focused on me for the whole duration of the procedure. In my final few minutes of consciousness right before I would be put under for the surgery, a breathing mask with a tube attached to it was placed over my face, which I could only either assume was either oxygen or some sleeping gas, and I felt some cold fluid being injected into my left wrist through the IV tube, which I could also only assume was medicine to help put me to sleep. After about 30 seconds, I could really start to feel like a lot sleepier. It really did overwhelm me. I was like, holy shit, I was so tired. One of the nurses asked me if I wanted to hear some bad jokes before I drifted off. I remember he told 3 jokes, but I only remember one of them because it was the only one that I got. And I'm gonna tell it to you right now. Why can't you hear pterodactyls go to the bathroom? I'll give you a second to think about that. Because the P is silent. I'm honestly surprised that I actually got this joke in my lessened state of consciousness, but this was actually the last thing that I remembered before drifting off to sleep. About 2.5 hours later, I woke up and found myself in a completely different area of the hospital. And holy crap, that was such an unnerving experience to wake up and literally have zero recollection of what happened in the last few hours, since I was completely unconscious during the surgery. But all I can remember when I woke up was that I was feeling very fatigued and very cold. Like, I could actually feel myself shivering, which it's never happened before. Thankfully, one of the nurses put like an inflatable pillow around my neck and torso that was heated electrically, gave me an extra blanket, and then I just passed out again from being so tired. Around an hour later, I woke up again to find myself sweating buckets and feeling insanely warm. I had no idea what the heck my body was doing, but big thanks to the nurse for refilling my water cup that I was drinking profusely out of. Mind you, the last time I drank water was over 20 hours ago. This was also around the time that I actually saw my cast for the first time, and I was honestly surprised that it actually went all the way up to my knee. At around 7 p.m., I was wheeled back into the area that I was waiting in before the surgery, and this is where I ran into my first post-surgery struggle: putting on my clothes. For a little bit of context to the initial range of motion of my leg right after my surgery, I could barely bend my leg at the knee. And because they just ripped out one of the tendons from my left hamstring, I couldn't even lift my leg up without using my arms to lift my leg up. So because of this, I realized that it was just a slightly difficult task to put my underwear and my shorts on. So I just want to give a big thanks to the nurse who helped me put my clothes on, because I was really struggling with that one. Once I was changed, I was given a bunch of information about what to expect and do in the next 72 hours, from how much I should keep my leg elevated during the day, to what pain medication I should take, and to what I can and can't eat for the next few days, and when my next check-ins would be. But honestly, As much as I was trying to pay attention, I was just feeling so physically fatigued at this point in the day, and I really just wanted to just go home and sleep. Both of my parents showed up at around 7:15 to drive me home. At around 7:30, I was finally discharged from the hospital. I was placed into a wheelchair, and one of the nurses helped to wheel me down to the parking lot where my parents were parked. And also I realized that getting into the car was also a little bit of a struggle as well. On the drive home, all I could think about was how thirsty, hungry, and tired I was. It could have been the residual effects of the stuff that they used to put me to sleep during the surgery, or it could have been the fact that it had been an extremely long time since I had eaten any food. But I wanted nothing more than to just collapse onto my bed and sleep. But unfortunately, 3 things stood in the way of that. Obstacle number 1 was getting from our driveway, which was on ground level, up the stairs onto the back porch to get onto the main floor of our house. And little did I know that stairs would be my mortal enemy for the next 3 months. Because I couldn't put any pressure on my leg, my dad and my brother had to do the thing that teammates do when a player is injured to help them get them off the ice or the field. Use them basically as supports. And let's just say it was quite a painful experience getting up those stairs. And it was only 6 steps. The second obstacle was going to the bathroom to pee, as it had been almost 10 hours since the last time I went to the bathroom. And let's just say that peeing while standing on one leg was definitely a very novel experience for me. And the last obstacle that I faced today was probably the most challenging. Getting up the 14 steps that separated me on the main floor of my house from my bedroom, which was on the upstairs level. Again, my dad and my brother helped me get up the stairs again, and it was even more painful since I had to tilt my leg back as much as I could to avoid kicking the stairs, but the back of my leg was still extremely tight after they removed the hamstring tendon, which meant every step was just pure pain for me. But once I finally got to my bed, my mom gave me some ginger ale to help ease my stomach, which was feeling a little queasy at that point, and some fried rice to help satisfy my appetite. And at around 9:30 p.m., I passed out on my bed and slept for over 10 hours, feeling completely exhausted after probably the most insane day that I've ever had in my life. And that's what my Achilles tendon reconstruction surgery was like. My next video of this little mini series of this little adventure that I've had of mine will be about what the next 6 months of recovery post-surgery was like. And you'll be able to see how I went from not being able to put any pressure on my injured leg to pretty much walking normally at this point. And lastly, I just wanted to give a big thanks to the nurses, surgeons, and hospital staff who were so kind to me during the whole time that I was there. And also my mom for bringing me to the hospital and staying by my side until the very last minute, until my surgery. I love you, Mom. As always, gently tap the like button, hit that subscribe button, and ring that notification bell to notify whenever I release a new video. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out. Alright, so for those of you who did stick around to see where my incisions were made, ignore my janky setup right now, but here's where the incisions were made on my foot. This was the main incision that they made right here. Of course, that's where I tore my Achilles on the back here, so they obviously had to make an incision there. They made an incision also down here where my heel is, like 2 little point incisions right over there. There's also where they made the incision to rip out my hamstring tendon, and you would think that it would be, I don't know, somewhere back here. But no! Guess where they did it? They did it right over here, basically right next to where my knee is, which is so interesting. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's where they took it out from. Holy crap. It was such a weird place. I thought they were going to take it out from the back, but they took it out from here.